Thank you. Hopefully I do not put you to sleep. I realize we are almost done. We're at the hour that everybody's very, very tired. So I will try to as engaging as possible. But I'd like to first start off by just saying thank you very much to our amazing host. It's been a great conference so far. Really appreciate all of the talk. So I'm going to be talking today about a restoration project that our team has been doing. And I want to talk just very, very briefly about the team because this is a group project. It is not me alone. And this is work that's being done with the Southeastern Center for Conservation at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. And our mission is to promote innovative strategies and partnerships to conserve imperiled plants and their natural communities. So this is sort of the foundation of the work that we do. This is my absolutely amazing team. Everybody that has stars on them are the individuals that are actually working on this project. And I just have to acknowledge each and every one of them because it is them that does the hard work. I do nothing. But I do actually get to do some fun things. But this is the hard team that is actually at work doing everything that I'm going to talk about. So we see the work that we do with restoration as part of a really integrated part of our entire department. So this is a schema that we designed that I wanted to be able to show people in one slide what do we do, because we do a lot of things. And most importantly, they're all connected. Everything we do is connected. So at the heart, I always jump to the very end because we think that partnerships and collaborations and our networks are the fundamental central part of the work that we're doing. And we cannot do conservation work without other partners because we're just one institution. And us alone, we are nothing without all of our partners. So when we look at our partnerships, that sort of is fundamental to everything we're doing. We first off start with our monitoring and assessing that then impacts how we are doing our seed banking. We also do cryopreservation and tissue culture where we have recalcitrant or intermediate species that we have to work with. This then feeds into our conservation and horticulture that really focuses on preserving genetic diversity in populations. So we have lots and lots of individuals from a population that we will protect in our conservation horticulture extension collection. And that work then feeds into our experimental augmentation that you've heard other people talking about today. And that is driven quite literally by the conservation genetics, because everything that we're doing in the conservation, horticulture, and our experimental augmentation is driven and underlined by our conservation genetics program that is really informing how best to do those experimental augmentations. And then we have our habitat restoration that is underpinned by our conservation ecology work that is looking at how that's impacting the system and more than just one species. While we are often working on one or two rare species in a system, we're trying to make sure that we're actually looking at the whole system itself because we understand the activities and all. And so this is the diagram where you can see sort of how our in situ and ex situ work focus and how we intertwine all the work that we're doing. And I'm sorry, I should have shifted this over earlier. This is also our Spanish wheel for everyone in the audience for Spanish. So these are the various different places. These are in situ locations that we've worked in the past approximately 5 years. Some of these sites include actual restoration projects. Some are just monitoring and assessing. Some of them are seed collection. Some are experimental augmentations or reintroductions. And we're focusing on habitat restoration today. So the sites that we're doing habitat restoration on across the Southeast range from very, very, very small plots in our mountain fens and bogs from just under 0.2 hectares to really large projects. We have around 125 hectare projects, with our average size being about 8 hectares. We do prescribe fire, we do invasive species removal, we do thinning, we do a whole host of various different restoration techniques to ensure that we're actually being able to try to address the restoration that is needed to actually manage the habitat. And then we stick around and we try to help with that long-term monitoring and that long-term management, because many of the sites, it's not a one and done. We don't restore it and then it magically is back to normal. We often have to, especially in the southeast, we have to use fire and we have to keep using fire because they're in systems that we can't just let wildfires happen anymore at large extent. So a lot of our like bogs and fens, we do a lot of active management. When we look at within our team, what we're looking at really ensuring our restoration and sort of the goals behind our restoration and ex situ work is focusing around not only just this biological existence, but ecological relevance and how important it is that we are ensuring that our collection, our conservation horticulture collection, and our safeguarding programs are really working to focus on this ecological restoration and relevance of a site in which it will be self-sustaining, where we actually see recruitment and we actually see that the plants themselves are sustaining. So we're going to pop over to the Gulf Coast here. We've got our Deer Lake State Park, which is located in the Panhandle. And we're going to look at our coastal dune lake system. These are really amazing that occur in the Panhandle of Florida. There's only 15 lakes, these coastal dune lakes. They are fed through lateral underground water that is fed through these really beautiful, diverse wetland fish slopes that feed into these coastal lakes. And then there's an intermixing of both the saltwater and the freshwater. These are extremely critical habitats for very rare birds. So the plover and the blue tern, which are endangered species, use these areas for nesting. And there are also only a handful of these coastal dune lakes globally found in Madagascar, in New Zealand and Oregon and Australia as well. So they're really cool systems that are at tremendous risk because that's the ocean. Here's the coastal dune lake. This is very lovely areas that people like to build houses on. So there's a huge amount of destruction going on because of human building and anthropogenic changes. In addition to the massive increases in human habitation and conversion of this land, there was a very large oil spill back in 2010. It may have heard, oil spill, and this impacted a very large area in the Gulf of Mexico. Our study site is right there. This is a baby snowy plover. This is a really great way in which we were able to capitalize on megafauna birds. Super cool. Everybody cares about them. They're very charismatic, and be able to get money for a restoration project that would actually support the birds, but also support all of the habitat up from the birds from the coastal dune lakes in the wetland seepage slopes. So we were able to apply for funds that came out of the Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund. That was from all of the money that came out that BP had paid for habitat restoration. And so we were able to tie our project to the importance of healthy coastal dune systems. And that's how we were able to actually raise money for a 10-year project to be able to do this restoration. So where the project is located, so this is Deer Lake State Park. We're very fortunate that we have some aerial satellite aerial imagery. This is located near an Air Force base. This is how we have this imagery from the 1940s. And these are all the seepage slopes here, and all these are wetland seepage slopes that actually feed into the dune lake. And this is a pyrogenic system that's driven by fire. Of course, as humans came into the system, fires naturally were immediately put out. So fires have been stopped and massively suppressed for the last years, really impacting vegetation in this area. And so what our project has done, and you can actually see here, this is the 1940s, 2006, and I know the lighting is great, but you can actually see that there's a lot of encroachment from a species of this plutonium. This is what it looks like when you don't have fire in that system. So it's it's a native species, but it becomes very, very dominant, and it becomes very sort of the dominant monoculture species in wetlands if you don't have fire. So what the grant was is basically mechanically remove the and convert it to this very beautiful, very healthy, happy, dynamic system. So this is 11 years after restoration for one of our first sites, where we actually did the removal. You can still see the Clitonia, which is actually right at the edge of the water. So right at the edge of the stream is where the Clitonia will be actually occurring. And that is what led us. This was actually part of a pilot project that we did to be able to actually justify the funding. So what we did in our project is all of these blue areas are where we went in and we mechanically removed the Clitonia, and we then mapped everything out. And this is just zoomed in of one of these blue. The hash mark here, that's actually the actual water. So they're either the wetlands or streams, and so we do not clear those. But we then go in with our mechanical clearing, and we actually remove everything into yellow. This is done through mechanical clearing with our feller bunchers and our chippers. We have to remove the biomass. It's really important. This is a nutrient-poor soil that is does not need this biomass left on site. If you need the biomass on site, you will not have regeneration of the system. You actually have to introduce fire and try to get through that biomass. The dust layer is quite significant. And so we cut and chip away all of the tie. We then chip it up and get it off site. We then burn it. And these are some additional photos that you can see. This area here was all cleared. You can see the stream right there. And then this area has all been cleared. And there's some of the finished work. Something that's really cool about this project is we do not use any herbicides. Another really popular restoration technique in this area is to use herbicides. We only use mechanical clearing and fire. That is all we use because we are really worried about the impacts of the herbicide on the other plant species, as well as some of the herb fauna that we're actually looking at with another project. So we put fire back onto the system, and we have great success. It's really amazing what you can do by just removing some of the Clitonia, the tie. And so we also wanted to look at, so that is a really exciting program. We've gotten funding for 10 years. We've been doing this. We've gotten 310 acres, or about approximately 125 hectares cleared. We have another year of the project. We're just finishing up the last part of the acreage close to the wetlands. But part of this project is to show others in the area and to develop a really solid restoration strategy for additional areas that are nearby, that are along these other parts of the forest. And so what we wanted to do is look at how quickly our biodiversity was actually returning, and we wanted to do a rapid assessment so that some of our partners could actually replicate this. We want to make tools and develop methods that others can do. The whole point of this is to make it really accessible. So we developed this rapid assessment to look at the density of our rare plants, and we just basically went to created polygons around our habitat, checked all of our little rare plants, marked each of them, and then we went out and surveyed food for them throughout the year, looking for their various different species and their intervals of return. We then did some analysis to look at the different graded sites that had not been cleared sites, and then our reference sites. And what we were able to see is that, yes, the cleared sites were, we did actually see significance, and we did actually see the greatest significance of returning to reference sites within that 3 to 7 year. When we look at finer scale data, we're actually seeing it closer to 5 to 7 years following the clearing and repeated burn to allow for the plant diversity of the rare species to come back. So this is really focused on just rare species. And without it, without the fire, this doesn't happen. And I will very quickly just touch on some of our experiments on augmentation. so we also wanted to look at success of outplanting some really rare species from some of the reference areas that were still left intact. And so we have done outplanting experimentally with more than 4,000 species, or more than 4,000 plants across the and we have monitoring that is occurring at 1, 3, 5, 10 years. We have some super great results from some species. So we have anything that has a little red asterisk, we actually good. Then when we look at our not so good numbers, not surprising, these are our orchids, and in many cases we have very bad success. This is because some of this was done with asymbiotic material, and we have changed the symbiotic certification to ensure that we're actually really focusing on the more successful. It is much more successful to plant orchids and grow them symbiotically. So we are shifting some of our methodology with that. And just as I wrap up, we were able to leverage the one cool thing about this project is we were able to leverage the initial funding with several other projects. And so what we were able to do is get some EPA money that was able to allow us to look at more fine scale restoration treatment, amphibian monitoring, the water quality monitoring, and so we're in the middle of this. This is our study design. There's a lot of where we have cleared areas, there's non-cleared, different kinds of restoration treatments that can be done on a smaller scale, but not be necessarily done on very large scales. And with that, we've been able to, we're starting to see interesting, we're actually using diaspores, outplanting, and fire and no outplanting. So we're going to have those go hopefully in the next year and a half. And one cool thing that we were able to find is that we've actually been able to identify 40 species and 8 new species of herpetofauna that had not been documented on this list on the property yet. And so I'm going to end with that, and I'm going to actually, very sorry, not sorry, but I'm going to plug the fact that we have an upcoming conference, the Southeastern Partners and Conservation Conference, that is the third conference, and it is focusing on Southeastern conservation. And we really try to bring all of the partners in the region and area together to really harness all of the great work that everybody is doing. And so we have the conservation horticulture workshops and seed banking workshops and indigenous knowledge workshops. So we're really excited to host that. So mark your calendars if you're interested. And a huge thanks to all of our partners and our funders. And if you have any questions.
You have we need to have
Emily, absolutely impressive and enjoyable presentation and inspiring as well. Thank you. Just a question. You mentioned about the removal of biomass in the Deer Lake example. I was just wondering, is there any application for that biomass, or maybe one to that?
So that's a great question. At the beginning of the project, and actually when we wrote the first initial grant, it had 4 amendments. Yes, we actually could take the chips and send them to the paper mill, the local paper mill that was utilizing the chips. And then Hurricane Michael happened, and they were overflowing with biomass, and they actually refused to then, they sort of changed systems and are no longer paper chips anymore, which is really disappointing. So we got about 7 years of being able to like actually take the chips to actually get processed for paper, and then now we have to burn them. So we do burn them. But it would be really nice. I wish they would take them. We've had a very big shift in the area from what used to be traditional timberland and they would do processing, and they were actually mills that would take the timber to more residential development, and so now it's in Florida, and so there's a huge amount of development, and so they've actually, a lot of the timber companies are not like actually selling. Um, and what about composting? It's a lot. It's a lot. I should have showed a picture. It is, we are on a daily basis. So that we end up with, like, there's smaller than piles that happen in about 2 months. So we